So welcome everyone. I'm Saxe Roberts from Liberty Systems, and I want to first thank everyone for taking time out of their busy day to attend our webinar. We hope you find it beneficial. Liberty Systems, we were founded in 1999, and we primarily serve the manufacturing and distribution space. And over the last few years, we've been impressed by how today's voice solution has evolved in the warehouse space. So we're excited to bring you this webinar to introduce you to AccuSpeech, which is a voice solution we thought you should be aware of. And even if you have a legacy voice solution, AccuSpeech could possibly be a solution for you as well. Today, our experts will be discussing how adding voice to your current mobile computers could possibly provide a powerful return on investment. And our speakers today are John Wirthlin, Zebra's manufacturing and logistics industry expert, and Bob Bova, the owner of AccuSpeech. Each of them will speak for about 10 minutes, and we'll conclude with a 15-minute Q&A. So if you do have questions during the presentation, feel free to put them in the chat, and then we'll address them to John and Bob when we're done. So without further ado, here is John Wirthlin from Zebra.
Hey, Sax, thank you very much for the introduction. I appreciate it. So like you mentioned, I'm the industry principal or subject matter expert here at Zebra for manufacturing, transportation, and logistics. And basically what that means is I work with our sales team and channel partners to understand the objectives and workflows of our customers and identify relevant solutions. So I'm going to be talking about what I'm seeing in warehouse trends and how that ties into to Bob's presentation following me about voice. So looking forward to the discussion. If you go to the next slide, please. So we have a maturity model, and if you're familiar with Zebra, we look at things in this context: ability to sense, analyze, and act. And as you know, we have our barcode scanners, we have mobile devices, we have our printers, we have RFID, fixed industrial scanning, all these different technologies that can sense, events, if you will, within the warehouse environment. And what we do is we try to understand what's the best way to capture those events, and how can we take that data and analyze that data and then provide succinct actions to the users to get something done in a meaningful way. And that technology lays on the warehouse management systems and also interacts with our partners, such as AccuSpeech with their voice picking solution. So we're going to talk about what we're seeing overall and how this automation can help. And then again, we're gonna focus in on the voice picking solution today. Next slide, please. So we've developed the warehouse maturity model, and you'll see the different concentric rings here. And what we do is we use this model when we go to talk to our customers to understand from a capability perspective where they are now, and based on their objectives of what they're seeing in their workplace, their competition, things like that, what kind of capabilities do they need to go to? And it kind of helps us. What that means is that if I have a pallet that I receive into my warehouse, a worker has to make a conscious decision to go over and scan that pallet or enter the information into a system to let the ERP system know that that product's been received, and for that worker to get more information as far as where to put that and so forth. And you'll find that a lot of our customers are in that phase 1, phase 2, where they're working with barcodings, they're doing key entry, but they're starting to really look into a lot more modernization as far as wearables. And this is really where voice takes the place. It's that leading edge that allows workers to get insight as far as what they need to do in a more served up manner, if you will, right? As the voice system, and Bob will talk to you about AccuSpeech, it's prompting the user by taking information from that warehouse management system or warehouse execution system and saying, you need to do this next. And that voice prompt works with our technology on a wearable or a mobile computer, even a barcode scanner, to be able to give that user some more interaction. So we're taking information from the warehouse management system, we're taking sensing information from our barcode and ring scanners, and we're providing that action for a user to do something. But basically, this last 2 years with COVID, the labor shortage is really prompting an accelerated adoption of modernization. We're seeing customers where they might put a modernization, total modernization to go, from point A to point B in a 3-year plan, and they want to get it done in a year. Because as there's a lot of labor constraints out there, and our customers are being asked to do more with less. So what we're really seeing is a movement from worker-driven transaction to be able to also augment that with some sensor-driven type of transactions, such as RFID and fixed industrial scanners, and the ability to automatically sense that product using an RFID tag as it comes to the warehouse, be able to receive that automatically in the back-end systems, and then give our users, again, a prompt, whether it's a visual prompt on a tablet and a forklift, or if it's an audio prompt, through the AccuSpeech type of integration with our systems and the backend systems. But what we're finding is that customers need to be aware of what changes are happening, and they need to react to it in a quicker way. And you'll see as we go forward, we're getting into more, phase 5 being intelligent automation, so more machine learning, artificial intelligence, things like that. And then of course robotics are kind of going across the whole gamut, right? Our fetch robotics and our cobots can be worked either alone, kind of standalone, to help move things from dunnage across the warehouse, where you have somebody pushing a cart, to actually really interacting with the warehouse execution system or warehouse management system. So not only can a customer or a user get voice prompts that they need to go somewhere to pick something, but a robot can meet them there, so they can put that item on a cart, and the robot does that non-productive foot traffic to get an item from point A to point B. So what we're seeing, our customers at now, if you can go to the next slide, please. We did a warehouse vision study, and we asked our customers in 2019. Now, remember, this was before COVID, or pandemic was a word that we all knew, and we said, well, where are you guys now? And our customers really saw themselves, I think, 63% in that phase 1, phase 2. Some were starting to look in that phase 3, where we kind of start dipping our toe in the water for more, sensor-based technology, but not a lot, in that whole, far right, and artificial, intelligence, machine learning, where they're really putting the pieces together. But then we asked them at the same time, where do you think you need to be in 5 years? One more slide, please. And we noticed the dramatic shift to the right. See, a lot of the customers, 30%, there was a huge spike in starting to explore that sensor-based technology, and almost a 3-fold increase, to that far right, where we're like, okay, we got to be able to leverage the data, in a more effective and automated way. And I think that's what's interesting about the voice picking solutions from AccuSpeech, is they tie into that warehouse management execution system and that picking flow, in order to pull that data together and make it easier for users to pick product and work in that sort of automated environment. So I think that's the end of my slides. But again, what we see is the maturity model helps us understand, your customers understand where you are now and where you need to go, and it helps you to partner together to help put together a roadmap of what are the right solutions to get you from point A to point B. So I'm excited to talk more with you at the end, but I think for right now, I'll hand it over to my good friend Bob Bova from AccuSpeech. Go ahead, Bob.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Appreciate being here today. Also, thank you everybody for taking the time. We all know how busy everyone is in our area of expertise these days, and again, it's appreciated that you're here. Next slide, please. So we have a lot of great customers, and one of the big reasons we have been utilizing device-based voice for 10 years now, Cabela's being our oldest and best customer, is the fact that our ROI is unlike anything else that in the industry for voice. We work very, very hard as a device-based technology to provide what we would consider next generation voice automation that the legacy type of server-based implementations do not. And one of the things that's important about that in terms of your return on investment is there is no server, there's no server software, there's no integration services needed. That type of an implementation is what we would consider a legacy type of implementation. The ability to be able to integrate on the types of mobile devices that are Android, Microsoft, it makes absolutely no difference. In fact, we provide the ability to migrate from a Microsoft to an Android device with a free license upgrade. There's no additional costs. So what we try to do is we provide the best overall financial solution, and we even provide a very, very distinct and detailed ROI calculator. So we can take a look at how many licenses, what your current pick rates are, how many lines you have, how many shifts you run. Also, we can take a look at if you need new Android equipment, we can add that. If you're looking at the HD 4000, the glasses, which we've also integrated with voice, you can take a look at that, and we can get to a very, very hard number in terms of what your ROI is going to look like. And we work very hard to try to hit that number or come in underneath it. So we take a lot of pride in that. And another reason why that ROI is very palatable to our customers is that we are extremely easy to deploy. You can deploy one device at a time, 5 devices at a time, one shift at a time, instead of the older legacy type of server-based implementations where you pull a big switch and everybody goes over. So that type of getting back up to rate as quickly as possible is not achieved nearly as quickly as it is when you're device-based and you can train folks, at your leisure. And that also takes a lot of the worry away from our customers, not having to switch over to a proprietary system all at once and being able to ease into the migration and implementation. One last quick idea in terms of return on investment. One of the really outstanding benefits of device-based voice automation is you can voice enable as many applications as you want. You can voice enable picking, shipping, receiving, cycle count, all on the same device, all with just a single license for voice. So that really accelerates your ROI, because if you can get receiving and picking and a couple of others up and running at the same time, you're going to have a faster ROI because you're going to be getting economies of scale on productivity and accuracy on multiple applications. Next slide, please. So device-based voice automation allows for compatibility with just about every ERP and WMS that's out there. We have customers running on everything from that you see here on our slide, but also homegrown WMSs, which are still very popular, especially with 3PLs. We voice enable devices that connect to those. Ordinarily, on that, with no back-end integration module, we can support just about anything. Every other legacy type of solution cannot. They have to have a specific module to integrate with the WMS, which is why homegrown WMSs can't use them. So most of these implementations utilize some type of terminal emulator or browser or a thick client interface, which we interface with. So everything that we do, again, is interfaced on the device. And this is where we really start to show our true benefits. What we do, in addition to voice direction, we also voice automate. So we take a look at exactly how your workflows are being utilized and what the most compelling parts of your workflows are. So if you are, for instance, going along and you're picking with voice, and then all of a sudden you come to, let's say it's a case picking implementation, and you get to a location and you see that there's 5 damaged cases. Ordinarily, you'd have to back out of that implementation, go into damage. You'd have to say damage. You'd have to go in. You'd have to rescan the location, rescan, put in all the information, get back out, and continue to pick. With device-based voice automation, when you're there, you can actually say damage 5 cases, and all that happens in the background automatically. That's what voice automation does. You stay right where you are and you continue to pick. And when you take a look at workflows in a warehouse, there are all kinds of times and implementations in receiving, in shipping, in picking, in cycle count, that this type of an automation can happen. And how does that work? Well, since we integrate on the device, we can push function keys, we can push return keys, we can save scans, we can use them later, we can take data and use it pretty much anywhere we want. So this way, we can take a look at how the workflow is optimized, but through voice automation. So not only are you getting the voice directed for better accuracy, but you're also automating so that the user doesn't have to look at the device as much, press as many keys, especially in different types of instances when there are exceptions or damage, or all that stuff can be automated so that the user can continue to do their job. Additionally, multiple languages can be supported on the same types of devices, on the same types of projects, on a single device. When the user logs in, they can log in. If they want the Spanish project, they log in Spanish. They want Portuguese, they can have Portuguese. They want English, they can have English. All on the same device. Next slide, please. So again, we've talked a lot about device-based and all the capabilities and the flexibility that it has. Device-based can be extremely flexible, again, in terms of deployment, in terms of supporting multiple languages, in terms of how you roll it out, in terms of being able to give certain workers in your warehouse the right device. So if you're on a forklift and you want a mounted tablet, we can, we'll support that. And then the folks that are receiving, if you want a handheld, that we can support that. The device makes absolutely no difference to us. So that way, adding value to your customer and adding value to your organization, you can use the right devices or the devices that you feel your workers were going to get the best bang for the buck, and also make them more productive. So as they utilize them, you'll find out more and more about how they can do their job, even better. So we talk a little bit about, how you can do multiple applications. With device-based server stuff, you have to have a server for every app, or every application has to be written to the server with an integration to your WMS system. All that goes away with device-based. Everything is done, again, on the device. Everything is integrated on the device, and it's done with the presentation layer that you choose. So whether you're using Stay-Link or Ivanti or Century software, whatever the terminal emulator you use, we support it. And again, if you want to move from older technology like Microsoft to newer technology, Android, we have the capability now in our technology, our software developers kit, where those migrations from one operating system to another are very easy to do. Next slide, please. So we talked a little bit about being able to choose the right device for how your users are going to use voice. We run on all the Zebra Android devices, and we're very excited about the WS50. The new 50 is a device that is really targeted for voice. It's targeted to utilize Android for device-based voice automation. It's specific to try to get customers to take a look at how it can be an all-in-one type of implementation. And as I mentioned previously, briefly, we also now support the HD 4000. We actually have customers that are using the heads-up display that can voice enable everything that they see on it. We can push different types of requests on it. Go to this location, just like you hear it. You can see it at the same time. We can actually push images of what you should be picking out to the user while they're doing it. So there's a lot of capability and flexibility and functionality, quite frankly, for utilizing voice and vision at the same time, depending upon what you're doing in your warehouse. And we've worked really hard now to the point where the HD 4000, that capability is integrated into our standard commercial software developers kit. So it's available right out of the box. It's also really good for training. There was a discussion earlier about how it's hard to find good, people, and there's a lot of turnover. That we have organizations that buy some of the HD 4000s just for faster turn up for training. So if you can see it and hear it, because some folks are auditory learners and some folks are visual learners. If you can put both on a person, it gets them up to rate even faster. So when you optimize with voice automation and you use vision, you can have a person really up to rate, within a week. It helps a lot. Next slide, please. So we do have customers that have multiple data systems that support multiple WMSs at the same time. Cabelis, that I mentioned earlier, is a good example. They have more than one WMS for different types of implementations. They also have different implementations in their stores. we voice enable all of them, and we integrate on the device and voice automate each one for the users that are have it in their hands in the warehouse. So there's a wide variety, a very big scope of areas where AccuSpeech Mobile can voice automate for customers. And the ability is to work with you and find out what the best integration and rollout strategy would be and how to utilize the best automation so that we can improve that productivity, really get that accuracy where you want it to be. And it's part of your continuous improvement scenario where you're always looking to make it just a little bit better, make that workflow a little bit faster, make that process a little more effective. Voice automation is a very powerful tool to do that. We have customers that have 12, 15 applications voice enabled in their warehouses. And now we're also starting to do quite a bit of work outside the four walls, mobile inspection, maintenance and repair. Anything that you want to voice automate on a mobile device, the AccuSpeech mobile technology can empower you to do that. That's our story, and we are going to stick to it. I think it's time for questions.
Okay, feel free to put your questions in the chat if you do have any, but I have a couple questions for you, Bob. Could you give just a ballpark? Nobody's going to hold you to exact, but just a ballpark of what someone might expect with the cost and implementation timeframe?
Sure. I think that for any implementation, our methodology is very, very consistent. So we will come on site potentially at the very beginning and do an on-site proof of concept to show you what the capabilities potentially can be. And once you see that as a customer, you realize, gosh, this is something that we want. Then we put together, a proposal with you guys, Liberty, and then we go to the customer and say, okay, this is what it looks like. And ordinarily, the tactical portion of it is we come on site for a week and we do a full process evaluation of how you're doing your work, what your workflows look like, what you're running on, what your network looks like in your warehouse. We take all that information and then we come back, and it takes us about a week or two to actually build the voice project with the automation for your implementation. So that can take anywhere from 2 to 2.5 weeks, just that piece of it. Then we come back on site, for what we call user acceptance testing. Now, user acceptance testing is where I had talked about the flexibility of deployment. We like for you to pick anywhere between 1 and 5 users, maybe some at the very top, some at the bottom, and one in the middle. And we basically say, okay, here's the headset, here's the device, go check this out. And then they'll come back, say at 10:30 or so, and say, okay, this works really well, this doesn't, can this go faster? Can I automate this? And then while they're having a cup of coffee or something, we can make those changes real time, recompile that little project, push it back down to the devices and go, okay, I'll try this. So then they'll go to lunch and they'll do that. And then we do that for 3, 4, 5 days. So by the time we're done with user acceptance testing, people know how to talk to it. We've tested the multiple languages, and we've absolutely optimized that implementation, that workflow, that application for voice automation. Then there's one more week that we like to be on site when you do the full rollout for everybody. We'll make sure we're on site, make sure there's no problems with any of the devices, make sure everything's on, everything's where it needs to be. So soup to nuts, it takes about anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks from pen to full production implementation. And depending on how many users you have, you're looking at anywhere. Again, how many user licenses you have is really the gating factor for cost.
Let's say 10.
You have 10 users, you're probably looking at a project that's going to be anywhere between, I'd say, right around $75,000 full all in. But that doesn't include if you're going to purchase new handheld
Sure.
Android devices. That's another gating factor if you want new devices.
And then adding an additional device then would just be another around 2,000 a device then?
Well, depending on what you choose.
Yeah.
It all depends. Each, and there's quite a range. Like say, the Zebra has a very, very wide and deep product set that's, like I say, has a very sophisticated breadth of features. So it does give every customer the opportunity to be able to put, not only the most cost-effective device in that person's hand, but also, the best device potentially for what they're doing. So,
but it's easy. It's easy to add just another device, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And then are the licenses, we get asked this, are the licenses concurrent? Meaning if they buy a unit today, will that license, they own the license, and if they upgrade units down the road, you just move it over?
That's right. We're the only company that does that. If you purchase a license from us, or you have a subscription to a license, and you go from, let's say, a Windows CE device, which we have lots of customers still use, and they migrate to Android, that device can move over at no charge, just as long as you've paid the maintenance on it. So
Sure.
there's an 18% maintenance, like any other software, year over year for the device. But yes, as long as you pay the maintenance on the license, when it's time to upgrade and move on, there is no cost to shift that license from one device to another.
Okay. Is the device serial number based, or if you have 10 licenses, can you interchange your devices? And
no, they're serial number. They're actually based on they're based on the MAC address of the device, actually.
Okay. And then ongoing costs, so you'd have the 18% of what your each device license is, right? You're not paying massive amounts of ongoing costs, right?
No, it's not like say the legacy server based like Vocalec stuff where you have to redo it every 3 to 5 years, and you got to establish the whatever, you can't upgrade your WMS. All that goes away. Right. So basically what you do is, if you come to us and say, hey, we'd like to do another application, well, yeah, we'll voice another project for you and do it the same way. But no, for the most part, all those big costs of maintenance and upgrades and having to buy proprietary equipment, that all disappears. So.
Okay. And so if there is a Vocalec user watching the webinar today, or another legacy, that they might have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into their system, but they might say, how could we possibly justify AccuSpeech when we've invested all this money? How does that ROI come into play?
That's a great question, because we get asked that a lot. We're currently replacing Vocalec at a huge Fortune 20 customer all around the world, multiple languages, multiple sites. And they wanted to migrate to a new WMS and to Android. And to do that, actually, Vocalec really doesn't have a solution to do that. They're touting that they do, but it's very murky. Quite frankly, being able to just eliminate the yearly maintenance costs and the yearly change costs and the cost of, it's anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a seat. So when you take a look at moving forward and being able to say, okay, if I buy this device from Zebra, this thing's going to last 5 to 10 years. They do. They're extremely robust. But by utilizing an open operating system like Android, the capability for extension and expansion, multiple applications, easy to make changes, very cost effective. All of a sudden, moving forward, you can upgrade your WMS whenever you want, right? It's not that big of a deal anymore. You can add receiving. You can, all the stuff that you've been told no for the last 10 years, all of a sudden becomes a yes. Okay. So if you take a look at the ROI that, quite frankly, never really gets achieved with a legacy kind of system, and you actually can turn your back on being fully responsible to another company for that type of implementation, changes, or upgrades, all of a sudden, it makes a whole lot of sense moving forward for continuous improvement and being able to be flexible. And again, using an open systems type of operating system on a device instead of everything being very, very proprietary. So.
Great. Thank you. And then one other question we get asked by customers as well is, let's say new employees, do you support multiple languages? And then is there a time to get someone up to out on the floor faster with your product rather than a legacy product in terms of getting to know their voice and things like that?
Yeah, well, We're a user-independent voice engine, and one of the reasons during user acceptance testing is that we find different accents. Some people speak faster, slower. All that can be tuned, and it doesn't have to reside as a user file on a server. And when you have a legacy type of user file on a server, again, you get charged per user. So every user that you have is a cost. Or for us, we're all based per device. It doesn't matter how many users you have. It doesn't matter how many shifts you run. It all becomes independent. And when we're on site for user acceptance testing and production rollout, we take all that into consideration. We really work hard to make sure that you get the best possible a voice recognition that's out there. And 10, 15 years ago, were some of the custom voice recognition engines a little bit better? Yes. But now the recognition engines that are available to us and the ones that we use are the best that's out there. So all that, again, everything's changed. Technology has evolved, and the voice engines have evolved with it.
Got it. All right. Well, I don't have any other questions, and I just wanted to say if any of you are interested in exploring AccuSpeech, the solution, just let your Liberty sales rep know, and in a few days we'll send out a recording of the webinar as well. And I wanted to thank again all of you for joining us today, and thank you, John and Bob, for your time as well. So again, we appreciate it. Appreciate your time today.